This is Zach.
This is Noah. And this is Zach and Noah Take on the World. Podcast is one thing.
One thing. Everything.
Everything.
We'll get the intro figured out smoothly every time at some point. But for now, I kind of like that it's a little choppy, Yeah. But it still works. So how are things up there in Wake County, North Carolina?
Oh, we're good. Just, I think, second in the state in COVID-19 cases. It's good. Just working from home still. Not being able to do much. I've been getting out of the house a little bit, but not to do much of anything. Groceries here and there. How about in the sand trap?
About the same. I've been doing a lot of walking over the last week or so. And we had talked about you doing that last week, and I was like, man, I really need to do that. And so I think we've been walking 4 times in the last week or so.
Good.
Just a lot more than I normally do in a month, so we'll take it. So that's been good. But yeah, otherwise just trying to stay busy and keep up with everything. Being a journalist usually means there's not much of a dull moment going on, but yeah, so things are pretty good, I think. I'm excited excited for this episode. So a little bit later we'll have my brother Addison on. He is a professional musician, and what that means is he wears a lot of different hats, and he'll talk about that a little bit later. But one of the reasons we wanted to bring him on is because we're going to be talking about music in this episode for episode 3. Episode 3, man, we've done 3, well, technically 4 episodes. We had a half episode, but...
Well, it was going to be a half. It kind of turned into like a full.
Yeah.
But yeah, so episode 3, I felt like we talk about music every episode, so why not devote a whole episode to it? It's a thing we constantly talk about, a thing I'm constantly listening to. I know we're always listening to, trying to find new things. And especially in this time, it's one of the main things out there to do. You don't have to go places to listen to music. You don't have to get out of the house. So it's readily accessible in a variety of ways. So
yeah, you don't even have to get out of bed to listen to music at this point.
You don't.
You just pull it up on your phone. It's like, all right, let's listen to something. I think that's what I did this morning to the new Sam Hunt album, which I'll get into in a little bit. But I was like, all right, wake up, look on Spotify. Oh, it's out. Let's listen. So I was ready. So yeah. So what we're gonna do, our list this week is the 3 things we're listening to during coronavirus. I picked 3 albums. Noah picked 3 artists. So we'll get into it. I'll start with my number 1. This is not really in a ranked order. This is just kind of out there. Of my 3 albums to listen to at home, it is called Chapters by James T.W. James T.W. is a guy I first heard, it's probably a couple years ago. He had a song out that was called When You Love Someone. Really kind of a emotional song about a divorce and being a part of that divorce. And I don't think it's based on personal experience, because he's pretty sure he's younger than both of us. But just very kind of, that song is on that album, along with several other ones that are really good. And he's got a good eye and pen, I guess, for writing kind of the raw emotional aspects of being in love and relationships and life. And I think that the Chapters album is a good collection of some of his best songs over the last couple of years. There's a couple songs that aren't on there that are really good. But if you need a place to start with James T.W., it's called Chapters. Kind of some of the better songs. When You Love Someone is really good. Man, I'm blanking. This is a good time for us to bring up that in accompaniment with this episode, we've created a Spotify playlist. The link we'll put in the notes, of some of the songs from the artists and albums that we're including in this conversation. Boys and Girls, another good one from James T.W., and Ride Into Your Love.
I didn't know that one. I listened to that album like once or twice before on some road trips, and it is solid, I will say.
It's not like the greatest album of all time that's going to blow you away, but it's real solid, like work or driving music to just kind of, all right, just have this in the background, or, you listen to it a couple times and get in, and it's very kind of, just like chill. but it's a good mix of stuff. So that's my album number one.
Right.
Noah, what's your first entry on the list?
So artist number one will be Stand Atlantic. We mentioned them. Well, I mentioned them before on the first episode. Mentioned a song, believe it was Sidewinder. Pop punk band from Australia. Female lead, which I guess you don't see a whole lot in those types of bands. At least maybe more so now.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, when you think pop punk, you didn't think that. You thought Blink 182, which I'm sure you probably heard of, Sum 41, bands like that. But yeah, so I don't really know how to explain them, but they really only have one album. It's called Skinny Dipping. It came out last year, but they have an EP called Sidewinder, which is very good. And recently just came out with a song a couple of days ago, and it falls right in line with coronavirus because they put out something on their Instagram, and they're being interactive as well. I don't think they've done a live stream yet, but they're like, hey, send us an email just with your name and stuff, and we'll send something back. And if you watch the music video for their new song, Drink to Drown, which I would recommend, which I believe it's on the playlist, very down, not as upbeat as most of their songs, not as in your face, but they have a lot of people showing what they like to do when they weren't in quarantine, and they'll put their name up and hold it up on a sign. And I just like how your brother, which we interview, and what he'll talk about is how people are connecting with fans. They found a way during this time to connect with their fans. That's another reason I believe I like them so much. They seem kind of just personable, and obviously you connect with people that you think are nicer or just seem like decent people. Makes it easier to like their music and their craft, and yeah. So, Stand Atlantic, listen to them.
Definitely, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say a few songs, but if you have a comment, your opinion.
I would say so. When we put the playlist together probably yesterday, and I've been listening to it, on and off with other things, and I really enjoyed those songs. Skinny Dipping is a lot of fun.
I do I'm not really sure what it
means. Your jeans. Just such a strange line, but I'm intrigued by it.
And I will say Drink to Drown, though. It grew on me very quickly. I don't know if you enjoyed that one as much, but it's slow, emotional, too. But yeah.
So those are two good songs. Any other ones you'd recommend from them?
I mean, the first recommendation on the first episode was Sidewinder. Trying to think what else. There's a song called Hate Me, parentheses, Sometimes. That's very good. And it starts out the song just saying spaghetti. That's what they say. And they just released some new merch, and it says spaghetti and has a head with spaghetti on it. So I don't know. They're quirky. I think they're all younger than probably we are. Wow. Maybe. And they're just very Australian. And you'll see, I think my three artist recommendations are all three different nationalities. So it just kind of shows. Not three genres in particular, because I guess my next two are kind of the same. But yeah, I feel like I rambled way too much about Stand Atlantic. So you're number two, sir.
My number two. Well, first of all, on the nationalities thing, I think James T.W. is English, but I think my other two are American. So I did not go as diverse.
I think you're one. Well, maybe born in America, but one of them. We'll get to it.
Definitely. Number two, How I'm Feeling by Lau. This is an album that Noah and I both really enjoy. This one that I listened to, he's put out songs for this for probably a year and a half before it actually came out, and just I think that's kind of what's happening now a lot is, and we'll talk again about this with my brother later, about how it's kind of this need for content, and he started putting out songs for this a year and a half ago, and just kind of dribbled out, and then now this full album came out last month. Again, real solid songwriting. It talks about some emotional stuff. Real variety of the type of song. I think there's songs For Now, which was one of my recommendations last week. For Now, Canada, kind of on that slower kind of feel, and then you've got songs like Tattoos Together, and F Word, I'm Lonely, which are a little more upbeat. But that kind of stuff, I think it's a real good mix of things for him that I really like. And he's someone who's very active on social media and kind of goofy. He put out a series of videos before the album came out where he called himself the one man boy band and had like different versions of himself that kind of represented, I guess, himself, and the songs kind of represent that as well. So Lauv, LAUV, How I'm Feeling, great album.
Definitely. And you just said he had a song Canada. I know he's not Canadian, but that kind of leads me. Well, I guess I'll talk about that album real quick. Mean It, wonderful song. I would recommend it with my boy Laney. Because it's technically a band, but it is just one guy that was singing with him. I think his name's like Paul Klein or something like that, but also very talented, which I would recommend. I'm always listening to him in the background, or just probably weekly, but I wouldn't say I didn't recommend him this time. But to go from a song called Canada to a Canadian, JP Sax, which I didn't know he was Canadian until I just looked him up. So that's good to know. But yes, he is Canadian. And where do I start? He's just a wonderful man. Recently put out an EP. And I think he has a song that kind of is really good for the times right now that you introduced me to, called If the World is Ending, with his current girlfriend, Julia Michaels. And it's just a wonderful song. I did not know it was as mainstream as it was. And I know we listen to a lot of people that people probably know, but I think a lot of what I like is just discovering that artist that maybe a lot of people don't know. And there is some like that, but everybody's known in their own type of way. But I feel like maybe JP is getting to the level where everybody's kind of knowing him, which is good. He's a talented man, and that's a wonderful song. Singer-songwriter, kind of, I would say he's pretty similar to Lauv in a way. Lauv, however you say it.
Yeah.
And kind of James T.W., maybe not, he doesn't write the way James T.W. does, but like the way they're able to talk about love and just feelings, and they all kind of approach it from a different way, and kind of have, their songs or sounds are different too, because he has some slow ones, not very upbeat. I don't think any of his stuff is very upbeat. But yeah, they all approach things differently, and it's just cool to see so many people tackle like the same thoughts and same like actions and things that are happening, and just the way they picture them or put them into words. So
definitely, I think of the song "Same Room," which is on the playlist as well. If the World Was Ending is obviously fantastic, but I think "Same Room" is that idea of like, he's like, I can't even be in the same room as this person. Like the feelings are too strong. And I think that's something that is communicated in a lot of songs and in songs probably by people we've mentioned today. But I think, a lot of these guys and girls have very unique ways of expressing it, which I think is one of the reasons we like them. But yeah, definitely Same Room is a great one.
I think it's also interesting. I didn't even think about following Lauv with JP, which they had that mutual connection of Julia Michaels. So
they do.
Both have wonderful songs with her, I'd say, too.
Yeah, they do. Lauv says "There's No Way," which is a great song. Lauv also has a song called "Julia" on "How I'm Feeling," which two guesses as to who that's about. So awesome. Well, we'll transition number 3. My number 3 was actually, funny enough, kind of a total shift from what my number 3 ended up being. It was Zayn Malik from One Direction, with his album Icarus Falls, but I changed it this morning with the new Sam Hunt album that just came out.
Didn't even notice.
Yeah.
That's why I said I thought you didn't have more Americans. I was like, he's not American.
Yeah, no, I changed it because that's how I've just been listening to it all day. I think so. Sam Hunt is kind of a country. It's like modern country, which is really interesting because it's nothing like our parents' country, which is very kind of twangy and I don't know what old country. But this country is modern. Think of guys like Florida Georgia Line, even Kelsey Ballerini a little bit, Thomas Rhett. That's kind of pop country. which I used to hate country, but now this kind of pop country, I really like it. And Sam Hunt's a really good example. He had an album called Montevallo, which came out probably 5 years ago. That was really good. Southside just came out today. There's been a few singles that have come out, obviously. Real good songwriter, very unique way of approaching music. So he'll do this thing sometimes where he'll speak the words and then transition to singing. Which people may have heard of. Matt Kearney is another kind of artist who does that a little bit, but kind of very heavily influenced by some kind of R&B, hip hop vibes a little bit, but definitely falls in that country lane. Some good songs, hard to forget. Kinfolks, excuse me, and Sinning with You is another really good one that's on that. So. Sam Hunt, Southside. That's new to my playlist, but it will be repeated very much in the near future, I'm sure.
I'm just gonna go and just say, because I feel like I need to put this out there, that I am not really a Sam Hunt fan, but I appreciate it.
That's okay.
Good to disagree. I just don't. You mentioned the way he kind of talks. I cannot stand that. I mean, I guess it's an acquired. It's different. I guess
it's different.
Kind of
It's different, and I think honestly, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, "That's weird," but it grew on me. Songs, probably the best example of it to me is a song called "Break Up in a Small Town," which is from his last album, which is a really good song. And talk about songwriting and that whole same room thing that we were just talking about having that, like, I can't be around this person because it's just too hard, or it's that same kind of concept, that theme. So Breaking a Small Town, not from this album, but also really good, and also Sam Hunt. But we can stop talking about Sam Hunt for Noah's sake.
No, I did like House Party. I'm not going to lie, it's catchy.
House Party is catchy.
It's probably not his best written song, but it's just like catchy. And number 3, you know what? Why not switch it up, just like you just did? And I'll put it in the playlist because I didn't do it now. But an album I sent you today, and a band I have been listening to, and I listen to pretty much just whenever, is All Time Low. Just came out with a new album today called Wake Up Sunshine. They kind of still sound similar to back in the day. I don't know if you listened to them much growing up, back into their younger days with Dear Maria, Count Me In, or
I did know that one.
They had a song Waitlist. They got tons of songs, and I don't know. They're kind of one. I feel like a lot of bands are still trying to capture that old vibe and the old thing that they're doing, and they kind of did it in a way where I think it works. Some of their stuff is more poppy. Their newest album, they have a song with Black Bear. Y'all know who that is. Do you know who Black Bear is, Zach?
I have seen it before. I saw it today. Weren't they on? Is that that Hot Girl Bummer whatever song? Okay.
The Black Bear, and he has a couple popular songs as well. But he has a song with that. He has a song with a band called the band Camino, which I really enjoy as well, and I'm sure I'll recommend a song of theirs at some point. But yeah, some of it does harken back kind of like to their old songs back when I was growing up in middle school. But also, like we mentioned, their song Monsters with Black Bear is a little more poppy, or some kind of Disaster, which isn't really pop punk at all, kind of a little bit, but it's more poppy as well. I kind of see them in a way, and maybe with the lead singer, I don't know if I'm going too off base with this, maybe a more pop punk version of Maroon 5. But I feel like they kind of write about similar things and have same vibes, where they can be personal and stuff, but it's like upbeat at the end of the day. And a lot of their songs are upbeat. I'm trying to think of songs to tell you about. Well, Sleeping In's wonderful, and I think it really goes along with this time too. There's not much else to do, so might as well sweep it in, right? Melancholy Kaleidoscope is a song I've been listening to all day. It kind of goes along with Sam Hunt. It's just what came out today and what we're listening to. So.
That's right.
But I will throw the name Emily Burns out there because that was going to be mine, and because you said yours was Zane. Emily Burns, wonderful singer-songwriter, British. And yeah, I don't know, writes about love a lot. Just had a song out called Terrified, came out this week. Watched her live things on Instagram too. And I think it's interesting because I was talking to your brother, as people will see, kind of about the smaller musicians connecting with their audiences. And I think when I looked at it today, there was like 45 people watching it live. And you don't get that connection with people, even at a concert now. You don't just 45 people there. I think she might have 17,000 followers or something like that on Insta. So yeah, but I would recommend her as well as an honorable mention if we want to do that. And you can have Zayn's album. We'll throw them in there. We'll keep them on the playlist.
Yeah.
I don't know if you took them off, we'll keep them. And I'll add All Time Low on there. 3 songs from the album. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we might as well just say it's our 4 instead of our 3. I mean,
yeah, we talked about them enough.
Yeah, we did. I'll throw in a couple words about Zayn. I like One Direction. I really do. I still do. I think, obviously they got pigeonholed as a boy band, and they were a boy band at first. But they kind of their individual trajectories as artists has been really interesting and really kind of just different. You see Harry Styles going in a more kind of rock kind of style, then moved into a more like 80s, 70s dance with his more recent album. Liam Payne is a little more kind of pop electronic. Louis Tomlinson hadn't done a whole lot. There's a couple good songs. He just came out with an album. And then Niall Horan with kind of that singer-songwriter. He's probably done the best, it seems, at all. He's just put out a lot of songs.
Him and Harry.
Yeah.
I feel like Zayn kind of just went away. I don't know.
I think Zayn had the advantage of being the first one to break off and do his own thing, so he got real big, like at the beginning, and then I think he's kind of faded away a little bit. But Icarus Falls, it's like 26 songs. It's ridiculously long, but because it's that long, you're gonna find at least 13 that are pretty good. So I put a few on the playlist for that. So. And Emily Burns, I will second that Emily Burns one. She has a song called "Is It Just Me?" that's really good. And I think another one is called "This Town" or "My Town," which is also really good. So yeah, so that's our list. That's why you all came to watch us, is our list every week.
We don't even have to do a recommendation because you got plenty.
Yeah. If I was going to do a single song recommendation, though, if you were only able to listen to one song from what I recommended, I'd say "Ride Into Your Love" by James T.W. It's kind of upbeat, poppy, encouraging song, and I think that's what I've been listening to a lot over the last few days.
I'll say if you just want to be sad, which you should be during this time, don't be happy, be sad. You can't go anywhere. Listen to "Drink to Drown" by Stan Atlantic. Just because it's new, and watch the video to see what people want to do when they're out of quarantine. It's interesting.
So, depending on what kind of mood you want to put yourself in, start with mine, and they go to Noah's, or vice versa.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, usually we talk about sports, but there's not really anything going on in sports,
No, really. I mean, Cam Newton still hasn't done anything. Jameis Winston hasn't. Yeah, I don't know. The NFL draft is coming up, I guess. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it. Definitely not going to have it in person, but yeah.
No, not going to have the boat going out and back from the...
I'm very sad about.
Yeah, that was going to be really cool to see. I'm sure they'll do it next year. I mean, they've hyped it up enough that now they have to do it, and we have to see it.
Yeah, not much going on in that world.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but... Oh, well... We'll find something different to talk about. We've been talking about a couple other topics to cover in episodes, and we'll get there. You watch it on YouTube. If you have recommendations for things you want us to talk about, bring it on. Hit us up in the comments if you disagree with us on stuff. If you agree with us on stuff, if you just want to say something random that relates to nothing to our show, just comment. Just send us the comments, and we'll respond to them in the show, respond to them in the YouTube comments. Share us, like us, subscribe, whole nine. Would really love to, we're just doing this for fun, and if it gets big, it gets big. If not, it won't.
Send Tiger King memes, please.
That's something, okay, I have not watched it yet, and I am not sure if I want to, because just don't.
Just don't. I'm about to finish it, I think. I'm not sure how many episodes there are, but I've been watching it, and yeah, it's something. It's something.
Yeah, that's all I've heard is that, obviously the guy Joe Exotic seems like kind of a not so great guy, but apparently the other people aren't great either. So it's just kind of like, what do you do?
Redeeming qualities in there. I will just say, if it tells you anything about the people in there, the one person I mainly sympathized with and I proclaimed as I think the best person out of the bunch was a convicted drug dealer. If that tells you anything about the level of people that are on that show. A convicted drug dealer, big kingpin. Him and his father, he went to jail for a while, like 12 years or so. Mario something was his, I don't remember his last name. It was Mario. But he seemed to take good care of his animals and have a soft spot for it and really cared. Seemed to kind of do good for himself now. So, yeah. So when a convicted drug dealer looks better than most of the other people, then that's...
Says a lot. That says a lot. That says a lot. Well, Sarah and I started watching Community, which just got on Netflix. Joel McHale, Donald Glover before he got superstar famous. So that's been fun as far as something that's not as controversial as Tiger King.
Ken Jeong as well.
Ken Jeong as well. That's right. That's right. All right. Well, we're gonna transition into the interview, and then after the interview, we'll sign off. That'll be the end of the show. Noah, any parting words before you want to give an introduction?
All right. So today we interview your brother, Addison Horner, who is a professional musician in Orlando, Florida. By looking at him, I would have thought he was older than you. I will say I did not think that he was younger than you were, but it's nice to have two 25-year-olds on the podcast. So.
That's right. Y'all are the same age. Wow.
Yeah, all right. When was he born?
September 94.
Okay. So he's a few months older than I am.
Gosh. All right. We're recording. I think. Yep. All right. Cool. All right. So we are here today with my kid brother, Addison Horner. Hey. It's true. It's true. You are younger than me. So Addison lives down in... Are you in Orlando proper, or are you in like...
Technically in Orlando now. We were in Oviedo and then Winter Park, and now we technically live in Orlando as of last year.
Awesome. Yeah, so down in Orlando with his wife, and Addison is a pretty intense, awesome, talented musician. And since Noah and I are big music fans, we decided we wanted to talk to a musician about being a musician, and especially being a musician during COVID-19 and everything that's going on. I feel like you and I talk about coronavirus every week on this because it pretty much started at the same time.
That's what's going on.
I mean, it's the thing. I mean, you can't really talk about life without mentioning it. So it's affecting everything we do. So
that's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, yeah. So Addison, I'll start off. What made you want to pursue music, and the fact that you're pretty much a professional musician? You do a lot of different things with that, and we'll get into that. But what kind of got you into wanting to pursue music?
Yeah, so I'll address that first. About like doing a lot of different things. That's part of the professional musician's gig in this current like society that we live in, is in the past like 30, 40 years particularly. But so for me, it started with piano lessons when I was 4. And I just kind of did it because I was just doing it. It's like, this kind of works. It makes sense. It feels good. I like it. I'm just going to enjoy this process. And then I kind of came to a crossroads in high school. It was like, am I going to keep doing music, like piano lessons, or am I going to play basketball? Which, looking back, I'm like, I don't know why that was such a hard decision to make. But I stopped taking music lessons, but that was around the time when I started really diving into it on my own. And having that exploratory phase of like, okay, I can do this and this and this, and all these connections and all this stuff kind of starts to make sense. So like, music is definitely an art, but it's also very much like math and science as well. And so for me, the math and science part started to click when I started doing that in high school. And so even after taking lessons, I started really playing more, taking on playing guitar and singing, and then from there, it just really kind of exploded because I kind of discovered what it was I really loved about music. It really started to click in a way that more than like any other like activity or any other like thing that I did.
Yeah, you mentioned being a musician in the last 30, 40 years and how you kind of have to wear a lot of hats. And I'm sure even more within the last 10, 15 years with social media and YouTube. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so for me, a lot of people have different things, but for me, I kind of found my bread and butter, which was in teaching, which I did not expect. A lot of musicians will either have one primary thing, whether it's performing, it could be writing, could be the main thing, could be like artist development, working with other artists, and for me, it was teaching. So I kind of dove into that my junior year of college, and then from there, I found myself moving down to Orlando after graduation with no leads except a tip job, renting out instruments at a music shop. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to start getting connected with people down there. I'm going to start getting connected with music schools and studios and seeing if there's any way for me to teach. I had sort of an idea of what I was doing, and that kind of led into me actually teaching, not full-time, but teaching probably 20 hours a week, 16 to 20 hours a week right now. And that's usually about what it is in terms of actual time commitment, which takes up kind of the bulk of what I do. And so besides that, it is very much kind of a mixed bag of things. I do writing, which sometimes is able to bring an income, but a lot of times right now in this phase is kind of like I'm doing it as part of just, it's like professional development, basically, building that up. I work for the Acapella Education Association, where I am content director, which means I basically interview people and write up stuff online, like blog posts, and work on online courses and that kind of thing, which I really just stumbled into through a Facebook post, and I was like, I don't know if I'm qualified, but I like writing and I like acapella, so I'm going to dive into this. And I've been doing that for a few years now. And then besides that, other things I kind of stumbled into along the way, like acapella arranging, stumbled into that while I was at Elon University. And now I do that kind of almost professionally for a few groups every year, just putting together arrangements for them. And that, as far as what I do regularly, is basically everything. Besides that, I've dabbled in making YouTube videos, dabbled in doing covers, that kind of thing. Although that is one of the kind of crossroads I've been at lately. Is that going to be what I want to do more often in terms of trying to build a fan base like the typical YouTube musician, or do I want to go a different direction? And then that's not even getting into TikTok and other social media platforms that could be involved there.
Yeah, well, go ahead. You know, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say how, especially you mentioned TikTok, kind of how, at least in your point of view, like kind of how do you make that decision of where to put your time and where to put your efforts? Kind of what does it boil down to? Well,
it comes down to starting with, you have to know what your mission is. You have to have your mission, your vision. Just like any career, really, any objective you want to have, you have to know what it is you're going for. And that's the thing I struggled with for a long time, and only more recently have I started to really solidify that. But in terms of thinking, what am I actually trying to do? What's my motivation and what's my end goal? And what that looks like can be flexible, but as long as you have like, this is kind of the value that drives me and this is what it's going to determine, that directs you to, okay, therefore, who is my audience? Like, what's the demographic? And then where is my audience? What's the demographic? So like for me, I'm not necessarily trying to make music at the moment that's directed towards Gen Z particularly, which is why I haven't tried to really go for TikTok as much. As opposed to musicians and artists, people who really are trying to hit that demographic, especially in the mainstream kind of pop area, and then like some like electronic, and then all this like the musical humor kind of stuff as well, and all like the kind of independent people trying to make their name singing covers. A lot of them will go towards that demographic because that's where they can connect with a lot of people through TikTok. And for me, my demographic is different as a Christian and singer-songwriter musician. It means that most of my demographic isn't going to be in the like 12 to 18 range. It can be for some things I do, but mostly it's going to be in, I'd say, 18 to 30, and then like potentially based on what I'm doing, also if it's like more explicitly like Christian and gospel or worship, in like the 35 to 44 year old white woman range that listens to K-Love. So that's, I'm not just trying to make fun of them. That's literally like the demographic they'll get for their studies and stuff. So.
Yeah, well, I think like any artist of any kind, you know, you try to figure out who your audience is and try to tune what you're doing to that. So that's definitely a challenge. What kind of Well, what kind of music do you listen to? You know, we Noah and I talk about music. We make a song recommendation every week. Something we talk about a lot. What are some of the music right now that you're listening to that you would recommend to people?
Yeah, gosh, music listening is a tough thing for me because I kind of came into this throughout my younger years, kind of formulating my music taste, and then my taste hasn't really changed a lot. But what I've discovered in music largely comes from talking to my students. I'll see the songs they want to play, the songs they want to sing, and that's how I keep up with most of the more popular stuff that's coming out. Most of the popular stuff I don't love, and some of it's good, it's fine, but a lot of it's not really my particular taste. Lately, let me pull up my Spotify real quick because I want to kind of look at who I've actually been looking for lately. One group, I believe they're called Mission House. I found them through looking at an artist named Jess Ray, which, Zach, was that your recommendation?
It was. That's
what I thought, because that kind of sent me on a little rabbit trail through some artists. So, like, yeah, so for example, lately, I've been looking at John Prine, classic singer-songwriter who I never really like gotten into his catalog, and so I'm like, okay, I want to get some inspiration there. I want to see what his style is, and so I get to learn from that. Besides that, generally, my go-tos will be just old kind of favorites like Reliant K. For musical inspiration, I go to like Jimmy Needham, John Foreman, a lot of kind of singer-songwriters who have that thing, and that's basically the area I go. So if you're looking for something that's especially nice and chill and relaxing and hopeful during this time, Jimmy Needham and John Foreman are the two I'd say go to, just off the top of my head.
Well, Noah and I shoot recommendations back and forth to each other, and a lot of it is kind of that singer-songwriter vibe. Guys like Dean Lewis, James T.W., Alec Benjamin, and we'll get to those later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think one thing that Noah and I wanted to talk to you about asking was what I'm sure you've been following a lot of musicians during this time where shows getting canceled, and what have you seen from musicians that works, that you're still trying to make a living during this time where a lot of the stuff that makes money is those tours and those shows. What have you seen that's worked, and what should people be looking for?
Yeah. So as far as what works definitively, it's hard to say because we're still so early into this. What I've seen is from especially artists that I know personally, like in the Orlando area and beyond, who are all of a sudden finding their main income from doing live shows, which they'll do a few times a week. All of a sudden that's gone. So they tend to do a lot of live streaming, and they'll do like a live streaming with the virtual tip jar on Venmo, PayPal, or whatever. And that's a big thing they're doing. And then like also bigger artists are also doing that. People have more what you call job security, even like artists like Coldplay, some artists like Sean Foreman does the song every day. Drew Holcomb and his wife do a song every day, that kind of thing. And that's where the biggest thing is, like they're connecting directly with their fans in a time when they can't get their shows and they can't build up their fan base that way. They're really connecting with people a lot more intimately through these shows with like, here's this experience you'll never get, which is Drew Holcomb and Ellie Holcomb singing a Bruno Mars song in their kitchen, which is like, that's just like unheard of on the scale that is happening right now. And that is honestly the biggest thing people are doing, is they're live streaming and they're providing this content for people basically to engage with them directly during this time. And that's probably the most successful thing they can do, because it's not just a matter of keeping some financial like support going, but it's a matter of like, I'm connecting with you, and therefore we're building a relationship that's going to last long beyond just COVID-19.
And I've been seeing that as well, and I think that's going to be something that sticks. I think, honestly,
I agree.
I think people, especially for more, maybe if you're like a Beyonce or Taylor Swift, you don't necessarily have to do that. But these other people who have big fan bases, but maybe not as big, where they make money from endorsements and all that, they'll get to the point where they can't stop doing this because the fans are going to want it, and they kind of get used to it. And it is a different experience, and I've done it a few times where I've watched a few live streams or whatever, and it is like you feel more connected than you normally would, because you can talk to them at the same time, and they'll read your messages, especially on Instagram. So yeah, I think it's going to stick around way after this. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's a good thing too. It's just more access to the artists, which is great, and it's also like I said, it's a necessity, especially because right now, especially in this age, with even TikTok and with Instagram and Facebook, even to an extent, with all these things, new artists are cropping up literally every day, to the point where it's like, if you don't keep a presence there, like basically in people's faces, saying, "Hey, I'm here. Listen to me," like in a nice way. But you have to do that, or else you're going to be left behind. Especially if you don't have the staying power of like, "Oh yeah, Coldplay, they've been around for 20 years," or "Oh, Beyonce, she's been doing this for like since Destiny's Child." So you have to have that. You have to have that continued connection. It has to be not just a matter of like, I'm going to do this one cool thing. It's going to be great. It's like people are doing stuff every single day. Like I can think of several off the top of my head that I follow, who I see their videos on Instagram every single day of new music.
Yeah, I think the taste has changed. Instead of like, all right, we get an album and then we wait, a year, 18 months for their next album. It's like, all right, what are they doing next?
Mm-hmm.
And albums still happen, but it's definitely a lot more frequent. You see stuff.
Yeah, it's a streaming age, and I think my personal opinion, not necessarily terribly informed, but I believe it's all going to cycle back around to albums eventually, as people kind of eventually get tired of the whole streaming system. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to be soon. But I believe I think it's nothing new under the sun. Everything's going to keep cycling back around, because back in the days of vinyl, singles were the big thing. Think about like the smaller records, like 33s. I want to say, don't quote me on that. I'm not a vinyl expert, but like you get a single, you get one, maybe two songs on B-side, and then that's what you get from the artist.
Yeah, well, I think the albums bring about an experience that singles just can't provide.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think. So you mentioned some artists that you like. Any artists you don't like? Any artists we need to stay away from?
Oh,
no, you don't have to answer that. But
there are definitely, I'm not going to name names. There are definitely artists I just don't. There are obviously some I don't understand because I don't have the right generational or cultural context. Even at 25, I'm old, especially in music terms. Mm-hmm. As far as like pop, it's like if I'm 25, it's like for me, I'm not going to be a pop star no matter what. Even if the label's like, hey, we're going to get there. There's such a small chance of somebody my age getting that attention because, like I said, my music's not going for that age. But like a lot of people who are appealing to the young folks, a lot of them have some, like Billie Eilish, have some awesomely creative and innovative stuff that's literally different than any other pattern that's in the music industry. Then there are others that I'm just like, I really don't understand what you're doing or why people like your music, but it's working for you, so keep doing it.
I know Noah had a question he wanted to ask you about me.
No, I was gonna ask if there was just any embarrassing stories off the top of your head you could think of for Zach, but I do have a more pressing question than that.
Yeah.
Is it so? You're in Orlando. Mm-hmm. Is it Kissimmee or Kissimmee?
Kissimmee.
It's Kissimmee.
There's a lot of weird pronunciations down here. I still haven't gotten all of them down. There's Chuliota. There's no E in Chuliota, or I, or Y, but it's Chuliota still, nonetheless. And there's Oviedo, which Siri pronounces Oviedo. And there's so many little things, but it is Kissimmee. I'm like 99% sure.
It was Kissimmee. I always thought it was Kissimmee.
I've heard it different ways from people who live here, and I don't know what to believe anymore.
So you've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
You've heard it both ways. Awesome. Well, unless there's any more questions, I think we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us about music. Noah and I are gonna, after we let you go, we're gonna talk about music ourselves. And what's two more things real quick? What's one album or artist you've been listening to during this COVID-19 situation that's been really really good for you that you've really enjoyed?
That's actually the crazy thing. And one of the things I'm not really happy about is that I haven't really taken the time to do that. And the main reason why is because even with like this stuff, my work hasn't slowed down. Teaching, everything is still going full speed. And I haven't been taking the time to listen to music for fun since this all started because I've just been thinking, how am I going to sustain all of this stuff during the quarantine? So I've listened to some kind of offhand, like John Prine. I think he's super fascinating. If he's not everybody's taste, but it's definitely very interesting music, kind of Bruce Springsteen acoustic kind of style, although I think he was doing stuff before Bruce Springsteen, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, there's not really any music that's getting me through it. It's more just kind of exploring my own process and then just like looking for inspiration as it comes up. And I don't necessarily love that because I want to be getting directly connected to music that really comforts me, that really drives me, motivates me, and kind of settles me as well. But I haven't really taken the time to do that throughout this process.
Understood. Well, you mentioned stuff that inspires you. Where can people find what you're doing and what's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, technically, as well, and YouTube. Addison Horner Music. You can find me on all those platforms. And then, as far as what's coming up, even with the quarantine stuff going on, my debut EP is still in process. So I've got some music up already on Spotify and all the streaming and download sites, and then. Pretty soon, hopefully in the next couple months, we'll have this EP out. It's in production right now, and it's already sounding fantastic. I'm working with a great team. So, yeah, excited to get that out really soon.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sharing those links in the show notes. No, unless there's anything else, I think we can let them go.
I think we're good, Addison. I appreciate it, and it's nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you, too. Yeah, you guys have a good one. Stay safe.
All right. Thanks, man. See ya.
Mm-hmm.